man. What's wrong with these two guys?
I gotta say, the Bill Murray smashing the clock, it hits a little different on a morning like this, Mike.
It does. It really does. Oh, man.
I guess it's just more fitting, I suppose. We here on Content, first of all, good morning, happy Sunday. We here on Content call this episode the toughest episode of the year.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you're tuning in this morning, you, dear friend, are a soldier as well.
You are. Listen, if you're watching us today at 8 a.m., you are a special person, and we love you, and we're very, very, very grateful for you.
Yes.
Because it was extra hard today.
You are a fellow soldier in the war against time that we're all waging at every moment of every day.
I can see us start philosophizing about time today now. It would be just so appropriate.
We just need more.
You know, I looked it up, and apparently something to do with World War I and them wanting more time to have war. Something.
Ain't that the truth?
I'm messing up the story. But
we want to have 25.
Yes.
Yeah, respect. Respect.
And
yeah, go figure.
So it had something to do with war. War sucks.
Doesn't it always?
Even
I know.
war gave us the time change.
I mean, we
what
were
good
still.
Does war do?
It's never
after a war. Nothing good.
Nothing, never.
Zip, and
it seems to push the problems further down the road.
Yeah,
and it ripples effect into the fact that we have to do our podcast an hour earlier for no reason.
Yeah, we could just leave the time. Just leave it. It's the way it is now.
Yeah,
we can leave it there. It's up to us.
Right? They did it for the farmers too, something like that. Or the train schedule.
My favorite one.
It's all bullshit, isn't it?
I don't know if we can believe any of this crap. You're right, because my favorite one there was one I read yesterday from 1885. I don't know what country this guy was in. I can't remember. But he wanted to catch bees. So he wanted 2 extra. It was in Germany or something. He wanted to catch bees, so he wanted 2 extra hours of light. So he wanted 2 more.
2? What is he, insane?
Yes, I think that was just some silly stories, myth or something like that. I don't know. We'll have to ask Dr. Ivan. He knows what's myth and what's not. So
that's right.
Only he knows. We'll ask him.
That's correct. That is correct, my friend.
Ivan, you out there? Is that true or what?
Well, I suppose he's got a show to do too, so he ought to rise and shine.
Oh my goodness! And this is my usually I'll make a confession. I'm usually past my I'm at least halfway into a coffee.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just getting started here.
Yeah, this when I got up this morning and looked at the clock on the stove and it said 5:45. I was like, "What? What's going on?"
The stove was right.
Well, yeah, I think that's the point. Yeah, the stove is always right. The phone is lying to me constantly about all sorts of things, namely
stove
the time.
Stayed the course. Stayed the course.
Phone. Oh, if that was the case, I should have got back in bed.
Yeah, you know what'd be funny? What if we become just so misinformed and ignorant at some point that there's no one knows? They're just like, why do all our clocks? Because everything will be automated.
Sure.
And they'll be like, why do all of our clocks change on this date?
That's when the machines take control themselves.
Conspiracies, man, they can form off of anything.
They can. It's true.
I was watching a movie the other day, and it was about a woman who went missing at the Cecil Hotel in California. It's on Netflix, and let me tell you, that's a great film. It's like a 3-part thing, and it's great to watch, if only for the fact that it's a perfect example of how conspiracies are formed.
Mm.
And just how many answers you can have to something and be completely wrong. That's sort of a spoiler. And no one, not one person, was right. Not the detectives.
Is this like a true crime kind of like this actually happened?
It kind of is. Yeah, it's true. Okay. It's definitely a true story. Okay. It's a sad story, but
yeah,
it's no one. And I mean, when and there were they call them sleuths. You ever heard of this?
I've heard of the term.
They're like what are they referencing? Sleuths or something where they like investigate crimes in like Facebook groups together to try and find the
There's a Facebook militia.
Yeah, they latch on to like something, and they just, I don't know, they team up and they try to solve a crime. So you had thousands of people in the Facebook group. You had basically most of the LAPD, and no one got it right. Until the end, where one piece of information came out, and then it made sense to people.
Yeah, and that makes me think of this one was from a while ago. But do you ever watch The Staircase, which was one of those kind of true crime documentaries?
I don't think basically I've seen that one.
A lady was murdered / maybe fell down the steps in her house, and it was really bad. It was a similar thing where they're looking into it. There's all these different theories, and I saw a theory. When it came out, there's a lot of hubbub about it. But my favorite theory was that she was attacked by an owl, which people were like, she's like inside of her house, but she was near the screen door. And they like did research about it in North Carolina where they lived at this time of year. These types of owls were commonly seen in this area. And she had like certain like cut marks that looked like talons.
It could happen.
It's as likely as anything else, as far as I'm concerned.
And that's the thing about conspiracies, and which is why it's hard for me to dismiss them. Because I read the argument, yeah, maybe, but my problem is I just can't say definitely that's it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you should always have a healthy level of skepticism with regard to the conspiracies you choose to engage in.
That's why I can't be a true conspiracy guy, because I finish reading about the conspiracy and I go, it's possible, and then that's it. I'm done. That's my big problem.
That's probably a healthy attitude, because if you start believing a lot of them, I think you start to be in a very paranoid kind of state.
And then I think you see them in everything.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that at times.
You start to just like look and be like,
is this? When
sometimes things just happen. Owls.
It's true. Sometimes some stuff just happens. Well, listen, Mike, given that this is a bit of a sleepy episode, and again, thanks to everybody for tuning in this morning. Let me kind of throw something a little fun at you.
I'll take it.
What I want to talk about at the top of the show here this morning is one of our favorite topics here on Content. I had a series of thoughts about this week. Mike, I'm getting out the whip, my friend. Okay?
Oh, boy.
It's out. I'm polishing it.
Oh, man, it's been a rough week.
But that being said, actually, I had quite a good week. But I did have some thoughts.
This is all right. See, I don't know where you're going now, because
I'm all over the place.
A good week to you, if you're in whip mode, is whipping yourself.
That's right.
So, but is that a good week? That's the question.
Well, I guess no. It still proves your point, because I was not using the whip this week. I just had some thoughts about the whip, I suppose.
But was the owl using the whip?
I think so.
That's
his theory. I can really buy into. Yeah. And picturing a giant owl holding a giant whip. That's a formidable beast. That's not something I'd like to run into a dark corner.
FYI, when I'm like sleepy and goofy like this, you're not going to get anywhere with me. I'm just saying.
Well, this is going to be good. I want to talk about a light thing, like using a giant whip on oneself. So to the content faithful, they might know what we're talking about in the whip, but the whip was something we discussed a long time ago on the show now, and I brought it up in reference to the followers of Opus Dei, which is a very let's say austere sect of Christianity that you
Prone
see
to whipping.
prone to whipping.
Okay.
Indeed. They believed in, I guess, what they would call like mortification, which I think can be interpreted a number of different ways. But these are the people who, they'll wear like a clamp on their leg that's constantly grabbing them
On purpose.
on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
They will also, as a sort of like prayer meditation kind of thing, they'll whip themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, obviously, obvious question: why would anybody do that? And so, from their perspective, they say, I believe, and of course, there are a number of other various religious delineations that do these mortification kind of things. The idea, I believe, is that there is suffering in all aspects of life, and that life will inevitably prevent you of suffering. And the more, in fact, this part is true, the more you coddle yourself and desperately trying to run away from the suffering of life, the more it can tend to get after you, the more it'll grow and become a bigger thing that really haunts you. So if we are proactive about this suffering, and I'm wearing a thing on my leg that's constantly pinching me every moment of every day, I'm choosing to voluntarily sign up for suffering so that hopefully in the end sum of total suffering that I do have to experience, I will have lessened some of my sort of outer world suffering by doing a little privately on my own. Which again, and I retain this point, I can't prove that that's not true. That's not something I'm going to do in the near future, at least. But I can't necessarily say that that's not true. Although it seems like it hurts. Let's be honest. So
I'm gonna stay out of your way completely.
okay.
Just keep going.
So this is a correlative with another kind of thing that we've discussed on the show, which is the idea of the Buddha's two arrows. Of course, Buddha's first realization: all life involves suffering, being old, being young, getting what you want, not getting what you want. There's all suffering in all of it. It's all the yin yang. The two arrows of Buddha, well, the first one is a life circumstance. Given that we're a tiny grain of sand in an enormous universe, we can control so little. So often, when big life events happen, they have very little to do with your individual conduct and how you felt or did or decided to do about certain things.
Happen.
They just happen. Sometimes, a global pandemic happens. Next thing you know, it's 1 year later. And, here we are.
Yeah, and I'm just staying out of your way.
Okay.
I want to hear this completely through.
That's the first arrow, right? And that happens. We're not in control of that first arrow. But the second arrow, the Buddha would say, is the one that we stab in ourselves. And so this is if we experience a difficulty in life, some sort of suffering, then we have the attachment to that suffering, which is saying, well, I'll never go back there. I'll never trust those people. I would never, ever do that. Those people, they're awful. Every single one of them is awful. And this attachment to the suffering. So the instance is what the instance is. Mm-hmm. But then there's how you feel about it. And if you're going to choose to perpetually be upset by that, and this is easier said than done in so many cases, but if you're going to opt into that suffering, that's the second arrow you're sticking in yourself. So between that and the whip, we have a little bit of a picture of the types of suffering of life and things like that. So then we are in, which I mentioned this to you a couple weeks ago, is that we are in Lent Now,
Okay.
the Christian time of sort of renunciation, dare I say? I'm not sure on the terminology. But as everybody well knows, during Lent, you have 40 days where you're supposed to give something up that would be meaningful to you, that would be an honest sacrifice. And so, maybe not many Americans, or not a majority of Americans, participates in Lent. And even maybe it can seem kind of silly to be like, well, what, I gotta give things up for what my Lord doesn't want me to have chocolate or something. What's the idea behind this? And this is circling around to Wednesday's show, something I talked about with Maxim. Thank you to Maxim Allen for coming on the show on Wednesday, by the way.
Yeah, I caught some of that. It was a good show.
Yeah, Maxim had some great things to say, actually. Good episode. And one of the things we were talking about was, because I was, doing a little intro to the show at the beginning, where just talked about how, in the modern American Western world that we live in now, we have, let's say, beginning in the 50s, 60s, certainly the 70s, this a lot of renunciation of religion, and then a very sort of like increasingly hedonistic, individualistic lifestyle that we have, I would like to believe, reached the logical conclusion of now, where you can sit at home and be as hedonistic as you would like to. You can blow out the lines. You can do whatever you want. And yet we found that there's something kind of empty to that as well. So I would like to believe, on a large cultural aspect, we would kind of bounce back from that and reinvigorate our lives with a spiritual component and a community-oriented worldview, let's say. So, and then I'll throw another one into the air before I desperately try and weave all these things together. Past couple weekends, I mean, I'll tell you this too, Mike. Past couple weekends, my girlfriend and I have been watching the services at St. Patrick's up in Manhattan there. Just a Sunday service. Just check it out. And, of course, Cardinal Dolan is giving the sermon or the homily. And so he is a controversial figure. So it's one of those, it's like very...
Aren't all those religious guys?
They are. They really are.
Stay out of trouble.
And so the obvious hypocrisy of every sermon that man gives can't help but stare you in the face. Nonetheless, if you're able to set that aside for at least a few moments, he does speak with a lot of gravitas. I will give him that. Cardinal Dolan has a big booming voice, and he's a good speaker. He's got some issues, though. Point is, last weekend, we're in Lent. He's talking about this kind of a thing. And he was talking about the 10 Commandments as basically being a kind of framework for life. And he was referencing, like, he was probably telling some fake story about, I don't mean to, maybe it was true, but about when he wanted to get his license when he was a kid. And he wanted to drive however he wanted to. I want to go 100 miles an hour, go flying down the highway. And his dad, his sensible dad, said, well, listen, Tim, there are rules to the road, okay? You got green lights and you got to pass on the right, all this kind of stuff. And so he wanted to do whatever he wanted to, but there is a framework of how to drive. And within that, you can go wherever you want to. So the example that I used to Maxim on Wednesday was basketball. Michael Jordan is not the greatest basketball player ever because he invented a bunch of new rules in basketball and completely changed and did whatever he wanted to on the court. Within the framework of the rules of basketball, he was the absolute best at navigating within that. So, all those fires now burning, I think that there's something to be said, and something we may be missing now, is that framework of life. So when we live this sort of non-spiritual, materially obsessed life, there isn't the only framework that is inherent to an American individual who's middle class or whatever is nowadays your own like moral code, which individual in terms of like to an individual can often be a rather fickle thing, because of course we talked about it on the show before too, cognitive dissonance. Unfortunately, it's very easy to convince yourself of anything depending on where you're at and what you're into. And so I think we've all found that sometimes it's difficult to hold yourself accountable, even for the things you know you should do, even for things you really want to do. Sometimes it's difficult to hold yourself accountable in that way. And this may be one of the inherent benefits to being a part of a community, is like, I honestly use you to help hold me accountable. And if I'm working on something, I tell you I'm doing it, because then I'm like, and I'm sitting down and I'm feeling lazy. I'm like, yeah, but you know what? Mike knows I told him I was going to do it. I got to do it, you know? And that being
that
right. And that's like,
I force things to be real by doing that.
But me too. And isn't that a pretty tangible benefit to being a part of a community and having other people intimately in your life and having some kind of outside pressure? And it's not like you're calling me up and yelling at me like, why didn't you do this? But it's even a pressure that I can kind of create in myself, again, to help motivate myself. So when we are all individuals and there is no common conception of a framework of, I don't want to say morality, because that's difficult to define, but some sort of framework of like commonly held beliefs about what will honestly make the world a more positive place and what will honestly make the world a more negative place, at least in a great many cases. When we have nothing to latch back onto, I think that adds to the feeling, oh my goodness, what am I doing? What is life even? I don't know what's going on. I just don't know who to talk to about any of this stuff. I feel like everything's so confusing. Nothing makes any sense. I'm just making mistake after mistake. And we're just sort of floating through space without anything to really ground us. So that being said, that then sort of reframes the idea of the Opus Dei person whipping themselves, or the average Christian giving something up for Lent. I was talking to a friend of ours, Nebi, this week, who grew up like an Orthodox Christian, and he grew up in Ethiopia. Yeah. And there are like multiple periods throughout the year where they fast in sometimes different ways, but one of the main ones is like giving up meat and dairy. So, you eat veggies, eat fish, whatever. And I mean, this is like a very old school way of like having a healthy diet. Americans eat way too much meat. There's no way we need to eat 3 meals a day with like bacon and everything. That's crazy. But there's something to be said for
bacon
willingly. Sorry.
You triggered me.
There's something to be said for, and again, going back to the whip, all the way back, there might be something to giving something up so that you can ward off further suffering in your life. and have a little piece of suffering that you can control. So maybe even if it's something like you want to do one of the 10 commandments, I mean, hopefully you don't want to kill somebody, but there are some lesser ones as you get down the list. There might be something to knowing you're giving something up there and holding yourself to that standard. You are inviting a little bit of suffering in so that you can ultimately move to a better place. So what do you think about that, man?
I was waiting for the shoe to drop.
How so?
As because I know you love the whip. So I was like, I want to hear Derek out 100%
Mm-hmm.
because I want to see if he's justifying the whip.
I'm not.
Because I know you love that whip deep down inside. Because I can relate so much to that whip.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, there's so much to talk about in what you said.
Yeah, you really let me go there.
My
Thank
God. No, I really wanted to see. I had a feeling you had like 8 Bunsen burners going in that chemistry lab of yours.
I did.
You know, and you were mixing it up, and I really was listening to every word, and I wanted to know where you were going. And it is interesting. I mean, you got so many layers there. Like you said, you started a bunch of fires.
True.
But they all relate to each other. There's so much there. My goodness. You think of so many things there. You have like this. When you delay gratification in anything, it makes it better, regardless of what it is. So that's one layer. You have the layer of I'd like to even mortification and things like that, even to think about that too, because it's sort of like it's a state of mind, like and it can be a dark road. So
yes.
Excuse me. I just wanted to say that because within any ideology, there's always a dark corner within it, and I remember, in my hardcore like Christian days, I got deep into that. In the 6th century, even the artwork, there's a lot of gore. There's an overemphasis on Christ's suffering. And if you think about the things that were happening at that time in the world too, 6th, 7th, so it all ties in. They were very like gory paintings, and everyone was into like hurting themselves to share in the suffering, and so I think that everything you said, all those fires, I think within balance, they're good. And that's why I just wanted to mention that, because if you go too far down any of those things and you overthink them, it can get a little bit crazy. But I agree with you. I think, like if you do take something away on purpose and you have an agenda, because one of the things that I noticed is Martin Luther comes to mind because one of the cool things about him, I did some light reading years ago at the stakeouts at work, and I would carry around Martin Luther's lecture on Romans, which is like this thick, a big fat red book I got from the library because it's
good for you, man.
Those things are so expensive you can't even buy them.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, for me at the time to buy a book like that, it was probably, I don't know. And anyway, so, and I learned a lot from him because he went down the hardcore path. And you know how you say suffering is grace a lot? He went down this hardcore path where he denied himself, he hurt himself, he fasted, he just to like get forgiven. A lot of his was guilt driven from sin, and that he was wretched, and which is like a number one component for classic Christianity 101, right? make you feel like you need saving because you're just a piece of crap. So he was suffering through that, and then he came across some text in Romans, and he made sense of them, and he said, this, no matter what I do, no matter what I suffer, what I do, he kind of like realized, hey, you know what? No matter what I do, I'm not going to get anywhere with this stuff. And then he went more on a grace path where, it's sort of like, it's interesting because even me and my path and other people that are sort of leaving traditional Christianity, I mean, by the groves, like just, there's so many people doing it. A lot of it is through trying that heavy suffering and trying that, to beat yourself up and to live up to something that's impossible to live up to. And I'm kind of moving around because there's so many topics within this.
True.
But I think it's important to note that you really, as much, if you do it in a healthy way, like, I'm going to take away something for this time, and why, it's how you do it. I think that's important. If I'm going to take something away, it's not to beat myself up. It's not to realize how crappy I am, and I'm just trying to like make myself good with God. I think that's the dysfunctional way of doing it, where there really are no benefits, because you're still gonna be, if you felt like a piece of crap before you did it, you're probably gonna feel like a bigger piece of crap because you're probably gonna mess up while you're doing it. So you're just really just
it's a dangerous path.
Asking yourself, and you can get addicted to the whip, and that's the joke me and you always have. You can get addicted to it, and that's the danger, because one of the things that happened to me when I was addicted to the whip, there was this preacher, I mentioned his name several times because he greatly affected me. Paul Washer, he's like a Calvinist, which is remember our friend who came on here, David, and he was talking about a book he's called The Naked Calvinist.
Yes. Yeah.
So this guy Paul Washer's a Calvinist, and he really, like, if you want to feel like crap, you listen to one of his sermons. Like, do you like, oh yeah, and that's the reason I'm mentioning him in this context is because there's a good feeling. Like, if you're depressed and you feel terrible and you beat yourself up, when someone can join in that with you, it's like this it's like an addictive thing. It's like, yes. Like, when I would watch him, I was like, yes, that's who I'm crap. Yes, Paul. Yes, you hit it on it. And I almost knew he felt like he was crap too. Like his self-esteem was just terrible, just like mine. And then he's on this podium and he's like, and that is, and yes, that's it. That's it. Yeah. And there's this good feeling about whipping yourself. And that's the danger in it. So back to the good way is, I would say we got some question here too.
Yeah.
I would say the good way to do this is to do it with an agenda, being kind to yourself at the same time, and do it to get somewhere or something, a closeness and understanding, just something you're doing. And while you're doing it, you're meditating, you're praying, you're reading something. So it's like an excuse to move into a more loving, more grace-filled, kinder. So like, I take this away, and then when I see someone who is suffering, let's just say maybe I've got it a little too good. We're all in different places. There's many people who damn well aren't in a place where they need to be giving up anything because they don't have anything.
True.
And they have nothing to worry about with this. This is a privileged conversation. So, like I give you an example in life. Our life is we definitely got to get to these. I'm just gonna say something, and I definitely want to get to DJ Yannick's. We see your comments. We're definitely gonna pull them up. So what the heck was? So like, for instance, yesterday, I'll tell you what happened yesterday. And yesterday, in my mom's building, there was a fire.
Really? Oh my goodness, man.
Scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
She calls me, in a panic and for good reason.
Mm.
In the same apartment, you know how in buildings they have like A, B, C, D, and they're all like the same on every floor.
Mm-hmm.
So in her same apartment, on the 7th floor, she's on the 4th.
Okay.
Big fire broke out. She's
Oh,
hearing she's got the guy's ladders right in front of her window. She's hearing things breaking. She calls me. Yeah, she's okay, Annex. Thank you for asking. And so she's here because I didn't want her to just breathe the smoke from. I mean, her apartment is fine. She had a very little bit of water damage. Not even damage. Some water leaked down a wall
okay.
because she's so many layers down.
Right.
But the point is that person. This is just to say, like, that was a sort of a wake up, when things like that happen. And I think it's in the same direction because I heard about the person on the 7th floor. Apparently, this woman had cancer. Apparently, she couldn't smell. She has a son who has a disability. Her son was in the kitchen. I guess he's old enough to cook. I don't know the age. I don't know them personally. And so he burnt something it was like an oil fire. He was probably making himself something. And it just, by the time she didn't smell it. Because she couldn't smell because she's probably from the chemo and stuff.
My God.
And now they lost their apartment. So it's like, and then it got me thinking about so many people. And the reason I'm bringing that up, like 'cause I have a friend, a close friend I grew up with who lost his place in a fire once. And then other things happened to him. And then I just got to thinking about how and I've been thinking about this for some reason a lot lately, how there's so many people that have these like insurmountable things that just some people it just keeps hitting. Like I've known people and it's like this happens and then this happens and I'm like what this happens and then and it's like my God, how is this person getting through this? And I wanted to bring that up because I think that provides the mechanism also that is the desired effect of taking something away from yourself. I'm kind of going out on a limb here, but I do think I'm not saying one is better or worse because you take it away from yourself, you're doing something intentional and you're on a journey inward. And inward is always wonderful. So I'm never going to say anything against inward because I think inward is everything because once you go deep inside, you're going to see things clearer outside. I'd like to get to some of these comments, Derek. What do you think?
Yeah, Yannick says a really interesting. First off, I really like your sweater, Derek.
Me too. You know what?
Don't you
Yannick's,
compliment me?
I want to say too.
Stop.
That's a hell of a sweater. I should have said
man.
that in the beginning of the show. I apologize for that. I do because I thought it, but I didn't say it because I was like really listening to what you were saying. But while you were saying that, I was kind of admiring. This was like, damn. And then I have like this is basically a PJ because I woke up late and then he's got this really nice sweater, man. That's a hell of a sweater.
Yeah. Maybe like an oatmeal. Would you say maybe?
Yeah.
I've had it for years, to be honest, but I don't think I've ever worn it on the show. So thank you, Yannick. That's a great way to introduce yourself to the Content family.
You're on the right track, man.
Question is, if we're so critical of ourselves, and we are in so many ways, and don't believe we are worthy, no matter how much we try, how can we guarantee that in the eyes of the Lord, we aren't a piece of crap? Mike, I feel like you are uniquely positioned to answer that question. What would you say to that?
Yeah, let's get this next one too.
I can't be kind to myself. I often beat myself up for getting out of bed at the wrong time. I did that this morning.
Boy, your sweater is on fire. Look, Issa says, I love the color.
You guys, stop. Oh. Don't stop.
So to DJ Yannick, listen, I'll tell you something. This is something, and I don't know if you're a Christian, but this is a very, very common issue within Christianity, and it's beating the crap up out of yourself. And you there's a growth process that's wonderful, and I'm lucky to be seeing so many people coming at the other end of that. Coming out of that. You we have to mature, and you start out in that sin consciousness, and ironically, the more sin conscious you are, the more mature your pastors are probably going to say you are of a believer, when actually it's the opposite. The more grace and love and self love and love of others, and love your neighbor, the basics. When you're in those basics, that's the mature Christian, not the rule guy. And this is good because this really ties into the conversation of rules and laws, and the true Christianity. And if you can't comment, I'm just curious if you are a Christian. If not, it's fine. I mean, we're not. There's zero dogma on the show. But the thing about it is that overemphasis, it makes you sin conscious instead of Christ conscious. And Christ conscious, to me, the end of the spectrum that I'm on, is like a consciousness of love, of grace, of acceptance, of everyone's, a universalist approach. Everyone's in heaven. Everyone is divine. It to move. I would say, Yannick, if you're in that dark place, because I've been there, and oh my God, it's just so dark. No matter what you do, it's not good enough. So a love of self is important. Therapy. I did therapy. I started to love myself. I mean, I was in my 40s. I'm 46, so I probably started therapy at like 40-ish. Maybe, I don't know, 39, 40, something like that. And, because I got into a very dark place of, suicidal thoughts and things. And I would just recommend, if you're in that place, therapy. You got to learn to love yourself. You've got to when you start to love yourself, you're going to love others. And beating yourself up, that's why there's a fine line. There's a fine line between getting the whip out to beat yourself up and sort of enjoy that. It's terrible.
It is bad.
Getting the whip out to kind of be like, I need to kind of like, be one with everything, with others suffering. I'm feeling like very selfish or something, or I'm feeling like I'm not in tune with what's, for these like intrinsic things, not to get right with God, because, at the end of the day, if, like I'm working on a song. God, I wish I could remember the words, because the one I sent you, Derek, the words are very particular to what he's talking about.
Right. The one you sent me the other day.
Yeah, it's like saying, basically the gist of it is, they say they love you, and then, God loves you unconditionally. Then they want you to work for it. They say you're saved for, great. The gift of salvation is free, and then they charge you 10%. Is this it's like a bait and switch, and we have to stay with the love. God is love. It says so. There's scripture. You have to stay in there,
And it is. Oh yeah, no, go ahead.
We got a comment here from Isa. You are worthy. We all are and have purpose. My son gave me purpose because I had none before he was born.
And I would just like to add on briefly that I feel like the question of how do you guarantee you're a good person in the eyes of the Lord is something almost counterintuitively, I think, that comes, you'd think it'd be from the outside, from the Lord outside into you. But I think how that would actually manifest is within yourself.
Yes.
And what we've discussed here now, Mike, is basically the spectrum of experience, wherein you have like complete hedonism and no rules at all, and then you have the like mortification, way too many rules, and that's kind of, and so as we talk about on the show so many times, is like you need to find kind of this balance. And also too, like, saying, oh yeah, I should love myself is easy to say in a vacuum.
Yeah.
But as we often say on the show as well, Mike, we do that by one win today, and tomorrow worry about the next one. So it's 0.1% today, 0.2% tomorrow.
Yes.
It's never a big right angle. It's never like a big thing. It's little tiny things, and maybe then a big stone falls out of the way.
And I do have a little hack for that.
Which is what?
My 2 hacks, I got 2.
Mm-hmm.
Gratitude
That's a good one.
opens the door to all this.
Mm-hmm.
And then just being kind to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I missed the train. Okay, I missed the train. What am I gonna do? Oh, I didn't do this to the way I wanted to, and people were disappointed with me. All right, well, that's, I did my best, and like don't turn that the self-talk conversation is so huge and so important. It changed my life to go from you're a piece of you can't do anything right, you messed it up again, you always to transform that to, well, all right, that didn't work out, but maybe we can try something else. I know I know I know I did my best, and I know I did that, or this happened and that's why I couldn't do it, and to just convert from dark judgmental talk to yourself to just, yeah, you got this, you can do it. Hey, it might not be the best, but you're gonna give it your best effort. That kind. Just like be nice to yourself. The funny thing is, if you have bad self talk, one of the things that took me out of it, that helped me like turn the switch, because I never thought I could, was just to say to one day I say to myself, I've never spoken like that to another human. I've never been that mean to anyone. How come I'm that mean to me?
Right.
And
that's something you said to me one time when I was asking about advice, and it truly blew my mind. And it is so true.
It's so true. And
you're willing to offer someone else a compassion you would not give yourself.
It's like someone this is how crazy this is. Just to illustrate it, it's like someone comes over, you make them a nice dinner. Hey, they tell you that their problems. They're like, nah, you're gonna get this. You're all right, man. Look how great you've done. They leave boosted up, like, man, Derek's a great guy. Then as soon as the door closes, I freaking hate myself. I'm a jerk. You start whipping yourself. And it's that crazy. And once I realized that, I was like, this makes no sense, and it kind of helped me. We do have some more stuff here, Derek.
Next follows up. I'm 33 with 3 young boys, raised a Catholic but far from practicing, as so many are. I'm literally trying to get from A to B, birth to death, by being the best I can be. Sometimes I struggle to see that. I see that for my efforts. I'm not really reaping any rewards, if that makes sense. It makes perfect sense, man. Not suicidal, but very self-critical, if that makes sense. It does. We live, oddly, in a very self-critical time. Like we were talking about last week, everyone's very self-conscious, which almost inherently leads to a sort of self-criticism. And what I would like to add to, Mike, what you're saying about like gratitude is a good method. Another fantastic method, I'm stealing this from Marianne Williamson, one of our biggest superpowers we have as humans is forgiveness. Forgiveness is the way in which we transmute negativity into positivity. We use the little bit of free will we have, and we say, I feel that negativity. I see it. I see it all day.
Yeah.
But the buck stops here, friend. I can take this little bit of and turn it into something positive. And first and foremost, that forgiveness should come to yourself. Because we do live in such a self-critical time, especially when we have our avatars of who we're supposed to projecting to be to the world in social media and things like that.
Can I just beat up Christianity a little bit more?
If you want to, man.
I have to. Just. I mean, listen, I'm a Christian, so if anyone has the right to,
you're entitled to, yeah.
So, I just want to say that that feeling of just not being good enough, that is embedded in Catholicism, in Christianity, and whatever you want to. We have a billion flavors of Jesus out there.
There's a lot of Jesus out there.
Yeah. So, it is not your fault, bro. Yanis. You didn't make this system up. It's a system that thrives on you feeling the way you feel.
And that's just not Catholicism. That's like modern Western world thought.
Yeah, that's modern Western.
You can be secular and you still have
sure.
self-criticism.
You can still feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just bad business, man. It's bad business. It's
Yes.
good business for capitalism. It's good business for Jesus Christ Incorporated.
Oh yeah.
It's good business for people who want to control us little folks, which is like 99% of the world. Um, we're the little guy. We're all over the place.
Hmm.
A bunch of little guys, and you gotta. It's stinking thinking. It is not good for you. It's not going to help you. At the end of the day, you want to feel content, and that's what this whole show is about. Content content. You want to feel good. Whether you win, you lose, you had the best day, the worst day. Not measuring your joy and your happiness with that. You don't need to rely on the things that they've told you to rely on to be happy. That comes from within. If you love yourself, you're kind to yourself. It's like a superpower, like Derek said. It really is. If you really love yourself, it's you're gonna walk around kind of like with a cape on, because
Hmm.
it changes you, man. It really does, bro. We got some more here. Look,
Look at your relationships, your career, spirituality, and wellness areas of your like and see what you would like to improve and make better. It's usually a bait and switch. Interesting, Isa. She says
okay,
it's a process. It takes self-love and self-care and self-talk to sustain talk.
yeah, to
I
keep
like that
going.
too.
I like that.
Looks like Yan X has got to run. Thanks for dropping by, man. We'll connect with you. Hope to talk to you soon. Hope everything's good and jolly old over there.
Yeah, man. Thanks for visiting us from the UK.
That's right. Yeah, Mike. I think that is very fascinating, man, because we really did. I think kind of bring up the full spectrum of because again, like um, when we do live in the materially obsessed Western world, um, we have to. It's almost like again because we don't have that framework, this commonly
Yeah,
held conception, then we almost live in a more self-critical time as a result of that. Again, because we largely are the only ones to hold ourselves accountable,
yeah,
which, like I said, is hard to do. So then we kind of default to being constantly self-critical because we're not doing X, Y, and Z. And
but
again, this is made worse by the value system that says
mm,
you have to be hustling and grinding every moment of every day.
and that's
Otherwise, you're
it.
a you're a worthless person. Um, and of course, like you're saying, that's where the power structures, they have you right in their sights at that point.
Hmm.
They got you right where they want you, and they can sell you all the toothpaste and Audis that you can handle. Um, and the bizarre, but ultimately hopeful reality is that the things that would make an individual feel better actually in a sustaining way are in fact within yourself.
Yes, indeed. Isn't
And
that
it
isn't
doesn't
that
you don't
isn't
have
that
to
a
go out
kicker?
and buy anything
That's such
in
a
order
kicker,
to
man. That
get
is like
to
it's all and it's funny. The most powerful lesson I've learned on my spiritual journey is what you just said. That's the
yeah, I know.
most
I know.
powerful lesson it's always been there. That's a
Always.
kicker. It's like
Yeah, I know.
everything you've always needed,
You telling me this whole time?
it's been there. And that's why I always say the road to life is internal. The road doesn't go outside somewhere. It goes in. That
Hmm.
spiritual it's counterintuitive
Yeah.
and only experience and trying to work on yourself, you know. And it's interesting too. I did learn something this week about someone. It's interesting because the habit of having other people do work for you and being, let's just say what it is, lazy, um
Yeah.
is actually, if you have that habit, you will also do it emotionally. Blew me away. I learned that this week because someone who does that was trying to do that on an emotional level because they don't like to, whenever things get too difficult, so they actually were trying to attach themselves to someone else so that someone else could do the emotional work that they need to do for them. And it blew my mind. that realization. And it's just to show you that, these habits, and this is why theology is important. This is why worldviews are important, because the way you see the world, and the way you see yourself is the way you're going to see the world. So if you don't think you're good enough, guess what? No one else is good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Those are those people who they can never quite connect with people, because they don't think they're good enough. So no one else is good enough either, and when someone messes up, they treat them very harshly sometimes because they treat themselves harshly. There's all types. So I'm not going to say everyone's like that. I mean, because while I beat myself up, I think I was pretty okay with a lot of people and nice. So I'm just a very, very strange person. But anyway, there's so much to this stuff. It's you set like a table. You set a buffet, Derek.
I did.
So
there was probably too much.
So much to eat there, and it was like
there was
I had to take a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit, and a little bit, and I was like, okay, you've been thinking a hell of a lot because you've been doing that lately. You've been putting some buffets, man. You didn't know. You just like, okay, I cooked all this.
Right. Check it out.
What do you say?
Yeah, it's really unfair of me to go on a 15-minute diatribe and then just ask you. So what do you think about that?
I love it. I love it because it makes. Well, I love to eat, so it's hand in hand.
I'm just trying to set the table here on Sunday morning.
Yeah, the more the merrier. I'm fine with it, but I think it's interesting because it all connects. It does.
Yeah, it's true.
It blends. It's not like you're putting things that don't go. Like they all do. They all connect, and it's very systemic. A lot of this is systemic. It's what I like to call the mammon system. It's in religion. It's in educational community. Wherever you want to go, wherever there's power, wherever there's money, that mammon system wants you to whip yourself, kill yourself, to get a piece of paper, to get, you name it, whatever. And nothing wrong with the piece of paper, nothing wrong with the award. But the reality is those things are so momentary, like the movie The Pursuit of Happiness. At the end of the movie, his whole theory, which I completely disagree with because it goes against the show's concept, is that happiness is a fleeting moment. So this guy's killed himself. He's hard. He's sacrificed. He's gone against everything. He makes it happen. And then he did it all for this fleeting moment. He said, "That's happiness." And it was like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, done. Sad again. And it's like, no, that really
seems like a lot of work for not a lot of payoff.
And that's what. But that is he found systemic happiness in that film.
Yeah, right. That's a very
It's like here, in Spanish we say "mátate." It's like kill yourself. It's like "mátate." For 20 years. Here, we'll give this to you. It's gonna last. It's been 20 years. We'll give you a minute. It's like really.
That's a bad deal, man.
It's a bad deal. When if you reprogram, listen. Anybody watching, if you think anything I'm saying makes any type of sense, look into mindfulness. Scientifically proven, we can reprogram our minds. We can fire up neurons and make different things connect. We can learn to love ourselves. We can change our thinking. Our mind is incredibly powerful. It is. Yes, we can be brainwashed. We can, stop thinking for ourselves. Yes, but that's proof that we can. If our mind is that pliable, if our mind is that programmable and changeable, why can't you, listener, program your own mind? That's what I've been in the game of, for the last, I don't know, whatever, say 3 years maybe, intentionally reprogramming myself because, hey, listen, if I could be in a cult and they could completely make me throw away everything I thought and any sense I thought I had, then if they could do it, why can't I do it for myself in a good way? I'll program myself. Hey, you're not so bad. Hey, I love myself. Hey, I can be happy. Hey, I don't need that to be happy. you can just tell yourself these things. Like
Yeah.
your mind is so ready to just do whatever the hell anyone tells it to. It's just so ready. That's how we work.
It's ready for it, man.
So just tell it things like that. Just tell it nicely. Tell it, oh yeah, this is gonna make you happy. It will. Like if you really tell yourself, this is gonna make me happy, and it's not some long-winded, after 10 years, when I get here, that destination addictiveness, then I'll be happy. No. If you just say, tomorrow morning when I wake up, I'm going to be happy because I love the bagels by my job. I'm going to be happy because I have a great friend at work that I want to see how his son is doing. I'm going to be happy because, and you just keep running it down. These little things, are the big things. We've heard that a million times, but it's really true. You know what? Cliches are only cliches because people don't apply them.
Well
it's
said,
a cliche.
man.
It's a cliche. It's like, oh, that's a cliche. Well, did you ever try it? No, because it's a cliche. Yeah, okay. Sounds.
It's go for it.
Think about that. And they really are. They're true. Cliches are mostly true.
Yeah, and we would do well to heed their advice. Just to tag on that, of course, we always say it's a process. So if you can do a little bit today, that's better than yesterday. Not beating yourself up is probably one of the foremost things you can do. And then I like what Issa says here: resistance is an obstacle. Are you ready?
She's got me thinking stoic.
I really like that.
That's the way.
That's a good little, that's Stoicism 101 right there. Somewhere Marcus Aurelius is smiling. How's that for a little motivation on Sunday morning, Mike? Are you ready? This reminds me, of course, of one of the great Joseph Campbell, mixing up Thomas Merton and Joseph Campbell. Great guys, dear friends of mine.
Well, one of them is you in a past life, so definitely a great guy.
I don't mean to toot my own spiritual horn, my own reincarnational horn.
I swear, when you first told me about Merton, I was like, "Are you talking about yourself in another life?" Like if you were killing me that day.
I could be him. I should really start get the Ouija board out and really get an answer.
You could be, man. We can ask PK, man. She's coming on soon.
That's right. That's gonna be fantastic. But yes, the cave that you are afraid of going in is where the treasure you seek lies. Will you say a hearty yes to your adventure? And I should hope the answer is yes. And Issa says, "Are you ready?"
Are you ready?
Today's the day. You're never more than one step away from the path. The next message is always right where you are. And don't beat yourself up so much,
Amen to that. I think that's a good time to start playing our goodbye music.
Well, I think we did some good work here today. Thank you again to everybody for jumping in the comments. Thank you again in general for tuning in, given that it's actually only 8 o'clock right now. Again, Mike and I will be working and lobbying Congress very hard in the next 12 months to be able to get rid of this daylight savings thing because apparently it was some guy who wanted to grow. What was he doing in the war? World War I.
Some guy who wanted to catch bees.
He wanted to catch bees?
Yeah,
I have to get up an hour early because some asshole wanted to catch bees?
I think, 1885, guy wanted to catch bees. And then again in Germany. This is all according to the internet, so of course, right?
Well, it has to be true then. I mean, that's how that works. As always, you can always catch up with all things content at that link right there. We can watch any episode you want on YouTube. Check us out on Twitch, podcasts, Apple and Spotify, Facebook, all sorts of groups to join there. Again, thank you to Maxim Allen for coming on the Wednesday show. This Wednesday, we will have Kyle Butler. He's going to be there, folks. All we were doing was building tension 2 weeks ago because this week is going to be fantastic.
Kyle is going to be great. He's got what a great message he has.
I'm excited to talk to him. I'll be doing readings on Tuesday night, of course. Also, you can check in there. Come and say hello.
What you reading?
You know what I got to do, man, is I have to go back and do the first chapter of Alan Watts, the
Yeah,
book,
like any
because
good song, you do all the scratch
you gotta
vocals,
play it
and then you got
again.
to go back and do the lead.
Exactly,
Yep.
precisely.
You
And
know, we
then
got to talk about that one day, Derek.
what's that?
About how music relates so much to what we do, and I think that's why we're able to do it.
You know, I'm gonna make a note of that, man, because
gotta do that.
I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah, because the conversations, revelation through conversation, knowing what direction to go, being able to just jam a little bit. I mean, it's very music driven.
I know, and I feel like we could have a lot to say about the benefits of being a musician, and I'd recommend it to anybody.
Yep, I would too. All right, so till next time, folks.